it's Angel Vane, and this is episode 77 of my author's diary. I am an author of crime thrillers for women, and every week I take you through the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books. And this week is the last week of Nanowrimo, and guess what, y'all? Hashtag winner. I am a winner. I am a winner. I am a winner. I'm so proud of myself. I actually crossed over the 50,000 mark early on Friday morning, November 27th. I got there, and I got there early, 3 days early. Yeah! My t-shirt's not here yet, and I feel like, look, I did this yesterday. I hit my goal. Where is my freaking t-shirt? Of course, the t-shirt probably won't come until mid-December, and when it does come, I will put it on and show you guys on the video. But I did get my certificate, and that's really exciting. So you can see my certificate here. I hit 50,720 words. I'm working on book 4 of the Hero in Paradise series, which is called The Unexpected Hero. Just as I thought when I was plotting this out in advance, based off of those books being around between 85,000 and 90,000 words, I would have to be in the first couple of chapters of Act 2B by the time I hit 50,000 words, and that actually played out. And when I look at my writing progress over this NaNoWriMo, it really showed that I started out slower and below pace. I stayed below pace up until about November 21st. And then that's when I crossed over and I was ahead of pace if you just go by the 1,667 words per day. And after I got ahead of pace, I just kept extending and extending. And I think that's why I was able to meet the goal 3 days in advance. You know, it's interesting because I went back and I watched my 2019 video to recap the 2019 NaNoWriMo. And in that video, I talked about how after I got into a groove, it kind of became easy. And I would say that this time around, everything felt easy. And I never hit a point where I felt like, oh, I'm not gonna make the 50,000. I think I went into this year with such confidence that, no, this is just what I do. It's NaNoWriMo. I'm going to get 50,000 words done. And that really just goes to show you the power of the positive thinking and the power of the mentality that you walk into a challenge like this with. If you go into it believing in yourself and having that confidence that, no, there's no way I'm not meeting this goal, you kind of have this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And if you go into it with doubt and I'm not sure and I don't know how I'm going to do this, you might end up with the self-fulfilling prophecy that is not meeting NaNoWriMo. So I really think the mental state that I went into NaNoWriMo with really helped out. And again, a lot of that, the foundation was because I knew I had done it before, right? So even though towards the end of Preptober and I didn't feel ready and I was like, oh, I'm kind of starting off on the wrong foot, still in the back of my mind, I never believed that I wouldn't hit the goal. I always thought, no, you're going to get there. Now, a couple of things I did differently this time around than I did last time around. So I found that having a writing schedule, like a certain time of day to write where I consistently wrote during that certain time of day, still worked for me this year. It just happened to be like almost the exact opposite of what I did last NaNoWriMo. What I did establish was that, okay, you get home from work, you eat dinner, you watch soap operas, got to get my General Hospital in, and then you start writing. And that ended up being consistently around 8 o'clock. And so I fell into this pattern of writing from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on the days that I wrote. I didn't do it every day though. There were certain days where I was like, I don't feel like it, I'm tired, or I need to go back and look at this plot, or other things popped up. So I wasn't concerned about writing every single day. I was just focused on the days I do write, I write between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. And my body naturally just got into that mode. Really what I did for myself this year was really focus on how many words do I need to have done by the end of the week. Don't worry about which days you write during the week. Just make sure when you hit the end of Saturday, you have clocked another 12,500 words. And I pretty much did that consistently. Now, some of the other things that I really learned, and this is the thing what I really, really, really love about NaNoWriMo. It really makes me focus in and analyze what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I think committing to that 30-day challenge as a writer is truly important, because you really can learn a lot about what works and what doesn't work for you. And you hear all this different advice from different people, but really you kind of have to go through it yourself and analyze yourself and figure out, hey, this is how I can get the most productivity out of myself. And it may look like something that other people have talked about, or it could completely be different from any advice that you've ever heard. So here's some of the things that I learned about myself during this NaNoWriMo. The first thing I already mentioned, I'm not going to belabor this point, but I don't write every day. I will never write every day, right? I just don't do it. That's okay. I can still be productive and accomplish my goals without writing every single day. Now, the second thing I learned, which is something brand new, I've really started to embrace this concept of iterative plotting. And that means I plot and I get the skeleton of my story, everything that I can think of in advance for the story, as I actually start to flesh out the scenes and put the muscles on top of the bones, put the skin on top of the muscles, that things don't always match up exactly to what I have outlined. The essence of what I had planned to be in the scene is still there, but I've changed some stuff. And I've changed some stuff that could have some domino effect later on. And that's what happened to me as I finished up Act 1 during NaNoWriMo. I realized that, okay, you've made some things that in isolation seem minor changes to the story, but once you kind of look at them collectively, you need to assess that and figure out what impact does that have on Act 2A now before you start writing Act 2A. Because I didn't want to continue to writing Act 2A and then realize, oh, this doesn't fit, this doesn't work, my story is broken. So I freed myself up and allowed myself to go ahead and edit my plot as I went along. And again, I know me. I know how much I love to revise. And so I really focused on it being minimalistic revisions. Now, the other thing where it's really popping up that the iterative nature of plotting is going to be really good for me is that I am very strong, I think, at outlining the actual plot point, right? Here are the things that have to happen in the story that gets them to this life or death situation, to that life or death situation that is progressively complicating as I get through the book. That piece, I'm really good at putting that type of skeleton on the paper. What I never seem to do is nail down that character arc. The character arc also needs to grow and develop along with the story, and trying to plot that out in advance to me just feels fake. I feel like that aspect of my story has to come out authentically as I am thrusting my characters into the scene. So I can't just say, all right, Julian and his old Navy buddy Sonny, they're going to get into this big argument. And in this scene, Julian needs to have a revelation about this aspect of his personality and grow from it. Like, plotting that characterization type arc in advance to me just feels fake. And then I'd be like, oh, then I'm forcing how it happens. And it just seems like it would not come across right. And I don't even think like that when I'm plotting. I really think that the character motivations, the development, that growth, that learning, that has to come through authentically when I thrust Julian into the scene. That's the stuff that's buried in my subconscious that I don't realize until after I wrote the scene. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Look at Julian. Look at what he did. And now it makes sense. And now I can see it now that it's on paper. Here's what he's growing into, right? And so because that piece has to be kind of subconscious, authentically identified as I am thrusting my characters into the scene, it doesn't really show up in that plot outline. But when it does show up, I have to go back and analyze it, figure out, does this have an impact on anything that I have plotted later on? And also, I have to assess whether, have I made him grow or have a revelation too fast in the story? Because that aspect, that journey, also has a timing cadence that needs to fit in with the story. And if I make him have a revelation too fast, then perhaps his behavior in a later scene won't fit anymore. The thing that I knew he was supposed to do in a later scene is like, well, no, if he had that revelation way back in Act 1, then that means he wouldn't make that same mistake in Act 2B. And so either I have to change the plot point in Act 2B, or I have to make that revelation stretch out and not happen until closer to Act 2B. And so those are the types of things that you really have to do. And that's kind of the mini editing, the mini revising that you do, that developmental revising that comes along with the story. Those are the things that really kind of come into play with my iterative plotting. I want to, at the end of each act, identify that stuff and adjust the next scenes that come in that next act before I write them. I don't want to write the whole story having this inkling in the back of my head that maybe I'm off a little bit. I don't want to keep writing because I don't want to have to do a big, huge overhaul of the whole manuscript at the end for stuff that has been niggling in the back of my head that I knew, yeah, you probably need to change this, right? So now I'm thinking, if I do this iterative plotting updates as I write, and again, I'm not doing it after every chapter. I said you're going to do this after every act. When I hit a tent pole, then I look and see, okay, what's changed? Anything changed? Anything that might impact the future? Do I need to look at some scenes? Do I need to tweak some scenes? And then basically it's just in that next act that comes up too. Because there's no point in looking, like if I'm in Act 1, there's no point of looking all the way through the end of the book because I don't even know what I might write in Act 2A that could also change something, right? So it's, what did I do in this act? How does it impact the next act? Do I need to make some tweaks and changes? Okay, make those tweaks and changes, then write that one. Then you reassess, and then you see, okay, what changes for the next act. And so I do that until I work through the end of the book. And so now that I understand that, I really want to bake that into all of my future writing, right? I'm still going to write an outline for the whole thing. I just can't, I need to know. And I need to know, I ain't turn by turn directions for my stories. I can't just be like, to get from Houston to Dallas, just get on 45 North and drive. Like, no, I need turn by turn. Turn by turn me out of my neighborhood and turn by turn me into Dallas to wherever my hotel is, right? And I don't know why I said Dallas, because I know I don't want to go to Dallas. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, really embracing this concept of iterative plotting and really going to try to flesh that out a lot more for myself and utilize that as a key tool to helping me write better stories and write my stories faster than what I have been in the past. And the last thing that I picked up on are two things that I already knew about myself, but I had kind of never really applied it to my writing forcefully. Is one, I work extremely well under deadlines. Like, the pressure works for me. It really does. It brings out great ideas. It brings out good productivity. I don't get mired down with deadlines. Like, I love having deadlines. And two, yeah, I got a little competitiveness streak type of thing that works within me and fuels me to do more. So when you combine, working well under deadlines, that pressure of deadlines, and the competitiveness, I'm like, okay, well, how do I manufacture that to help me with my writing going forward? Because fake deadlines don't work for me. I just can't be like, oh, I feel like writing this book in 3 months. It's hard to stay motivated for a deadline that is fake like that, right? And so that's why I feel like, some of my deadlines, because they haven't been hard deadlines, they've been a little fluid. And they've been real fluid, right? I don't quite hit them all the time. And I give myself allowances to I don't feel like it. Oh, I want to do this instead. I allow myself to do that. Well, now I'm looking at a way that I can combine deadlines with competition to fuel me to actually be more productive consistently throughout the year. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm competing with myself. I don't always need to be competing with another person, but I can compete with myself and with what I have done in the past. So, for example, this Nanowrimo, it was a competition with Angel of 2019 who finished Nanowrimo. Angel of 2020 was like, I'm not going to let her finish and then I'm not finished. What? Okay, so that was kind of a competition with myself. And so now I'm working on, book 4, The Unexpected Hero. I went out and I already put the pre-order out for The Unexpected Hero. And I set the pre-order up for as long as they would let me, which is 1 year. Pre-order for The Unexpected Hero is up for a release in November of 2021. This is the same thing that I did when I was finished with The Relentless Hero. I put the pre-order up for The Fallen Hero right when I knew The Relentless Hero was done. Not when I published it, but when I knew it was done. And so it had a pre-order that had a release date of April of 2021. Well, guess what? I finished that book early. Didn't take me a full year. I'm releasing it next week. So that's 5 months early. So now I'm sitting here like, Now that's a good deadline to compete with past Angel and see if I can do better than that, right? So I have a November 2021 deadline to actually get The Unexpected Hero completely done and released based off of the pre-order date. Now, based off of how I completed The Fallen Hero, 5 months early would mean a June 2021 release date for The Unexpected Hero. Now the challenge is on. I want to complete The Unexpected Hero more than 5 months ahead of schedule. So that is how I'm going to drive a deadline with competition to myself, to the past performance that I had. I'm not just going to throw out junk, right? I'm going to go through my normal process. I'm going to do my own self-developmental editing. I'm going to give it to the editor, give it to the beta reader, give it to the proofer. Like, all of that still has to happen to make sure that when I release the story, I think it's a story that works and it's a story that I'm proud of. But that fuel is there because I'm like, even though Amazon.com says my deadline is November 2021, my internal deadline is to be before June of 2021, which means I'm going to keep up this pace that I'm doing for November into December to get the whole first draft of The Unexpected Hero done before the end of this year. Yeah, little mind games that you have to play with yourself sometimes, but it's fun, right? So that is my recap of NaNoWrimo 2020, #winning. If you want to continue to keep up with me and all the ups and downs that I go through as I try to write and publish new books, click the subscribe button. Then don't forget to click that little silver bell so you won't miss when I'm doing a video, and I will see you next time.